Joining me to talk more about that is Amalia Pulido, an expert on drug trafficking organisations. Thank you for being with us on France 24. Now, as we heard there, this is clearly a major coup for US law enforcement and for the Mexican authorities as well. But will El Chapo's jailing affect the operations of the Sinaloa cartel?
So, thanks for having me. So, today is an important day, and I think as we saw in the news, is the end of one of the most important criminal leaders not just in Mexico, but worldwide. But however, I don't think it's the end of the Sinaloa cartel or the Sinaloa criminal organization. So I think this is not the end of all the legacy that El Chapo had in Mexico. And what we are seeing is this King Nip strategy where you capture the leader of the organization, but then you have a lot of small little cells fighting to control the organization. So I think in terms of violence and the drug trafficking issues that we have also in Mexico and also the United States, I don't think the life sentence of El Chapo will change levels of violence in Mexico. What will change maybe is the dynamics within Sinaloa cartel. So now we will see a fight over the control of this organization. We know that Los Chapitos, or the sons of El Chapo, are fighting to have the leadership of this organization. And there are some rumors about internal disputes between El Chapo's sons and his brother, El Guano, Aureliano Guzmán Loera. And so what we're going to face in Mexico, I think, is this dispute over the control of Sinaloa's cartel.
The war of succession, as it were. And you mentioned the violence there. I mean, this war has had a devastating human cost, hasn't it? Over the past decade, an estimated 100,000 people have been killed. The vast majority of them, of course, Mexicans, and many of them innocent.
Yes, sure. We have, as you already mentioned, more than 100,000 homicides. We have more than 30,000 disappearances. So, I mean, the violence crisis in Mexico, it's a reality. And as I already mentioned, I don't think this life sentence for El Chapo or El Chapo behind the bars will change the violent dynamics in Mexico. We are facing a reality with other organizations such as Jalisco Nueva Generación, who is maybe having an opportunity with these internal disputes within Sinaloa, and they are trying also to get the control of territories that used to be under Sinaloa's control. So unfortunately for Mexico, in terms of violence, we don't have a positive scenario or a positive expectation in terms of levels of violence.
And President Obrador López is the latest Mexican president to suggest that legalizing drugs is the way to break up the drug cartels. Is legalization the way forward?
Well, I think it's one strategy, but I don't think it's the final conclusion or the final. Legalizing will not solve the problem that we have in Mexico with violence, because we have to remember that these organizations and these criminal organizations have other types of activities. They don't just engage in drug trafficking. They also engage in kidnappings. They also engage in human trafficking. So we should remember that this is not the only activity that they are engaged. So I don't think legalizing will end the violence crisis that we are seeing in Mexico. Just to give you a number, in this May, in 2019, we have, according to Lantia Consultores, we have 1984 homicides with a special emphasis in 3 states, Guanajuato, Baja California, and Guerrero. And we are seeing an increasing tendency in these homicides rates. So I don't think legalizing is the answer or is the way to end this crisis that we are living in Mexico.
Amalia Pulido, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.